Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week is a week of celebration. Not only does this week mark the 3-year anniversary of this podcast, but we're also here to discuss the 30th anniversary of the Muppets in their TV special, The Muppets, a celebration of 30 years.
Did you do this on purpose?
I wish I could say yes, Sam.
Okay.
The stars just align sometimes, that we tie their anniversaries to our anniversaries, but I will honestly say this is a complete coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not even all we're celebrating, because we also have a special guest today. And because of the way podcasts work, you probably saw his name in the title. But that doesn't mean it's any less special, because today, here to discuss this with us is Sesame Street puppeteer Ryan Dillon.
Hey, fellas, how's it going?
Good, Ryan. How are you doing?
Doing great.
How's New York City?
New York is great. It stinks. It's beautiful. The gorgeous dichotomy of...
Yeah, it's like spring almost, right? So I
Yeah,
think spring
I
is
mean-
a really nice time in New York.
Yes, it is right now is an excellent time. Actually, the best time is fall. You know, like
Oh, okay.
October, late September, early October is when New York is like the most romantic, beautiful version of New York that you would see in like When Harry Met Sally, right?
Yes,
Right.
What's
My
the
prime
word?
reference for New York is pretty much When Harry Met Sally. I have never been, but I've seen that movie dozens and dozens of times.
What's the one where Tom Hanks is a creep? What,
You've Got
bookstore
Mail?
Creep?
You've got mail. Harry
That
Met
one
Sally
too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, famously subtitled Bookstore Creep.
Yeah. Better title, arguably. It lasts longer, you know.
Yeah, more relevant still today.
Way more relevant.
Well, Ryan, you do a lot of stuff. You have done a lot of stuff. You've been on Sesame Street for quite a while at this point. Can you tell our audience what you're up to today, and maybe a little history of how you came to be on Sesame Street?
Yeah, sure. So I am a Muppet performer for Sesame Street. Most notably play Elmo and some others. But I started with Sesame Street and the Henson Company when I was 17. I had been sending in audition tapes as a kid, and I don't remember how we got the address to Henson, but somehow my dad was able to get the Jim Henson Company address, and I would send in tapes.
How old? when you
I
started doing
probably
that?
started sending them around 14, maybe. I
Oh,
mean, I was a
wow.
kid.
Okay.
I was really
Yeah.
young. And Henson was always really kind. They would always send it back with a letter, and they'd say, "It's great, but you're a baby, so there's nothing we can do for you. Keep doing it." And then one day, Kevin Clash called the house and got my dad, and he was like, "This kid's really good. But again, we can't do anything, but just stay in touch. Your name is kind of on a list of people to look at."
Wow.
And then some time had passed, and then I had worked a little bit with people like John Tartaglia and Leslie Carl Rudolph, and they had kind of recommended my name. And I got there when I was 17 and doing, like Right Hands and Anything Muppets and Chickens and all that kind of stuff. And then in 2013... So that was 2005. And then 2013, I started playing Elmo. So it'll be, I guess it's 11 years now with that. So it's,
Wow.
yeah, it's been an amazing ride. And it just feels like no time has passed. It's amazing.
Had you just finished high school and then immediately dove into working there?
So I was still in high school. So I had to take time off of high school to go do Sesame Street. And I was doing homework at lunch. And I remember I was,
That's wild.
I had textbooks, and Jerry Nelson was sat next to me in the green room. He goes, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, these are my textbooks. I'm doing homework." And he was just really, he couldn't believe that. And I mean, I couldn't either. And it was so funny. Some of my teachers were really happy about it, and some of them were really upset. Like, well, you're missing your chemistry test on Friday, so how dare
I'm
you?
sure.
Yes.
That's so important.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
Elmo now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't chemistry. What's chemistry? I don't know.
Yeah.
Elmo doesn't have a clue what chemistry is. So.
He's 3.5. I'll never have to know it ever.
That's right. You didn't even
Yeah.
have to go to most of the school that you went to.
I know, it was a waste. I could have
It's all
stopped at
useless.
kindergarten.
Yeah.
I guess along those lines, like, is there a hardest part to performing Elmo? Is it, remembering to use third person at all times?
It's actually getting other people to remember that it is third person. Because often you'll get lots of scripts where it's I and me, and you kind of have to correct.
Yeah. Wow.
So that locked in really early because I knew that was an important thing. And I had seen Kevin, like I had worked with Kevin so much that it kind of was that part of it was second nature. The older I get, the harder it is to do the falsetto and maintain it. I mean, I can do it, but after like a 3-hour vocal record, I kind of come out talking like this, and I really can't keep my voice. But it's great. I mean, it's one of those things that it's such a singular experience that very few people get. So I'm just always so grateful to be at all these places that I would never be. You know what I mean? Like I would never find myself at the White House or, you know what I mean? The crazy places. So it's just, it's incredible.
Have you been to the White House lots of times?
Well, I've probably been, so I was there for every Obama year up until from like 2013. So that was, what is that? 3 years, something like that. And then I've been a few times for Biden. So, and we're going back. So it's an amazing experience. And it's just one of those things, again, you're like, how am I here? How is this? This is just so bizarre. I did a press conference with Michelle Obama once on healthy eating. And it was me and Carmen Aspar. We were under the table just looking at each other and like, what is this? What are we doing?
And do you like doing the live shows, the late night shows? Is this
that's my favorite stuff to do.
Okay.
Because the Elmo that I prefer always watching is that Elmo, and that it's arguably a little bit more of an indulgent performance than you would do on the TV show.
Yeah.
But it's fun because I love the dichotomy of Elmo's 3.5, but has industry awareness. That there's this, and Kevin built that. He kind of laid that groundwork, so it made it easy. That he kind of knows what rehearsal is, and he knows who these celebrities are, and it's fun to kind of take, and it's a fun conceit to have a kid on a talk show who's savvy. So those are always my favorite things to do.
I think we've found that, or at least I have, that some of my favorite Muppet stuff by a long shot is when they get to be on a late night show, and get to be a little bit more nasty. Not nasty is not the right word, but like Grover gets to just be a total pill.
Totally.
And he also is just like big time Hollywood Grover.
Yes.
When he's behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, I
And
always loved.
Everybody loves him so much.
That's the
Everybody
thing. I mean, they really can get away with anything because that there's an innocence. Like that's the great thing about the Muppets, as you know, that there's this innocence behind them. So even if they have some sort of like funny retort, that it's because it's a puppet, because it's they're always so kind. Even Miss Piggy, you know what I mean, has her moments of like kindness with the host. I always love that stuff. Where I remember seeing like in the 90s, Frank was going on all these talk shows with Miss Piggy, and you could tell he kind of didn't really want to be doing these talk shows with Miss Piggy, but they were hilarious because that had that little bit of an edge, but it was still Miss Piggy, and how Jim can kind of be a little bit, not snarkier, but, just a little bit more adult with Kermit and stuff. It's always fun to see that.
Yeah. We've definitely seen him get a little, I think we've used the word sassy before as Kermit, because you can tell that Jim is maybe getting annoyed with an interviewer, but he can't react because he's Jim Henson. But Kermit can react to like, hey, these questions are boring, or I can't believe you're asking this, or really we're wasting people's time with this. And he gets away with it because Kermit's saying it.
Right. And there's just a it's like you said, there's this thing where people love the characters, so it all kind of works. And it also makes the characters in the scripted narrative stuff more rich. Because you can kind of take that information and like pepper it into the shows and stuff. Like that piece of them can every once in a while be put into the shows, which I like to do too.
Yeah, I feel like Cookie Monster is kind of that. Like you can
Totally.
really tell with Cookie Monster that he's just been around in Hollywood for a long time. Do you have a particular Muppet project that like hooked you on it and made you want to start sending them videos when you were 14 years old?
I mean, I was like a rabid Muppet kid. Like
Okay.
I would get anything I could, and it was back in the days where nothing was accessible. See, I had to like
Right.
find someone who had a tape of something and get a copy of that tape. And then, so I loved it all, but I do remember the thing that I always cite, but I probably have created more of a story of it than it actually was. But the thing I cite always is a special that they did during the Jim Henson Hour called The Secrets of the Muppets, where they show all the Muppet characters, and the whole hour is basically a behind the scenes hodgepodge of clips from previous documentaries and stuff. But at the end, they show all the main Muppet characters from that show, and then they take away the blue screen, and then the camera pans back, and you see all the performers.
Right.
And it's Jim and Fran Brill and Dave Goelz and Jerry Nelson and Steve and Kevin and all these amazing performers. And I do remember that being the first time that I saw that kind of a thing. I'm sure I had an awareness that they were puppets, but I hadn't really seen people under them. And until you see that image, I think it's a little bit harder as a kid to contextualize
Totally. Yeah.
that there are people doing this and that it actually is a job. And I think that was probably the thing that sticks with me the most when I think of that question.
And that knowing that doesn't make it any less amazing. Like
it makes it better.
It makes it more amazing. Yeah.
I think one of the issues with puppetry often is that people take it for granted because they don't know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see something and be like, it's just two puppets, but they're putting a puzzle together. It's like, no, those two puppets are putting a puzzle together. That is really hard. Yeah. And so I think you're right that it makes it more magical because, and I also love seeing photos or videos. I love this as a kid, photos or videos of the puppets not like on racks, because I actually think that gives the audience a cue to say, hey, these things they're beautiful sculptures, but they're just beautiful sculptures until someone's doing something with it.
Yeah.
Right. And that just adds a richness to it, I think.
Yeah, when you realize, Kermit's a green sock, but you put a hand in him and he comes alive immediately. And you're like, oh no, that is true artistry and magic.
Right.
Is that I can go from staring at a lump of green fabric on the table to talking to it as if it's alive in 2 seconds.
And I should also say that part of that is the people at the Muppet Workshop. They make it so easy because those puppets are works of art and they're beautiful. Like one of the things I love about a beautifully designed Muppet is you're only doing half the work. Like the visual, the caricature of who this person is supposed to be is usually in the best designs of puppets. There's this character that I've started doing called Felix, who's this little chicken. He's like that big on Sesame Street. He's got these big bulgy eyes. And he's great because you don't have to do much with him because the design says everything. And that's definitely a credit to the builders who I think don't always get that credit. We tend to get the credit because it's like, it's a piece of fabric on a rack until someone does it, but it's a beautiful, perfectly sculpted piece of fabric that already has a character in it, right?
I guess in talking about this as, you realizing this is a job that people can have nowadays, when somebody asks you, so what do you do for work? How do you answer that question?
Oh, it depends where I am. It depends on if I want to engage in that conversation. And if I want to, sometimes that can dominate conversations. So you have to be mindful of answering that question if you're with people that you want to share a conversation with. I usually will just say that I'm in production. If I'm in a cab, that's my answer, right? I'm in production. But if people ask, I'm happy to answer questions for them, and people are usually really excited to hear it. But on my passport and when I go to customs and stuff, I put performer.
It's like a weird like undercover boss sort of thing, but it's undercover Elmo, where if you really wanted to at any moment, you can just be like, oh yeah, by the way, I am Elmo.
Don't you know who I am?
It's so funny because people have said that to me in the past. They're like, you could get into that restaurant if you just said it. And I just can't do it. It feels so yucky to me that I would never. Because then also like you're the Elmo guy. You got the table because you're Elmo. And it just feels like That's just so not my scene.
They're also going to expect you to bring Elmo with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that I
Like,
have him
this-
everywhere.
Elmo got this table.
Yeah.
Right.
Elmo needs to be here.
Yes, there's no do the voice, all that stuff. So I usually keep it at work
Oh, I didn't even think of it. Is that a thing that you get
all the time.
often? Oh.
And for kids, like for people who are
Yeah.
genuinely really wanting it, I'm happy to do it. But it's just one of those uncomfortable social moments, right? Where
Mhm.
Especially
I'm
if you
just a
don't
guy
have
doing
the-
a voice.
If you don't have the puppet with you, too, it is like,
Yes.
okay, close your
Am I
eyes.
allowed to
Imagine
do
Elmo
this?
is here.
Right. I promise this is what he sounds like. Ready? Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it different for you performing Elmo as a puppet versus doing a lot of the voiceover work? Because obviously Sesame has ramped up like animation stuff over the years. Is there a different energy that you feel like you have to bring to that?
Yes, that's a great question because there are moments when, obviously the character always stays the same, but I'm much more mindful when I'm in front of a mic. Like, for example, when I do toys, diction is really essential because that audio is being put on a chip that I'm sure we've all had talking toys when we were kids.
Yeah.
So you're having to then like counteract that.
Right.
And also make sure it doesn't sound like a word it's not supposed to sound like and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Like Hail Satan. Or
Right,
something.
all that ridiculous people. If those things were true, people really want to believe in their minds that a group of people at an organization, hey, let's say this, hey, let's curse in the doll, and then that got past like 50 people. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so I'm very mindful of that. But also, you'd have to track this because I'm not sure. But I think the pace is different too. Because when you've got a puppet on, your hand and your arm and the performance in your hand is informing the speed and the pace at which you're speaking. And when you're in front of a mic, I think it might be a little bit more deliberate. I'd have to track that. I'm not really sure. But I do think in a different way because when you're in a booth, you don't have the puppet to tell you half of the story. Right? Like I'm very much somebody who likes to inform the narrative with the physicality of the puppet too. And you don't have that. You're relying on an animator to do that for you later. So you're like telegraphing a little bit more in animation and stuff like that, probably.
Do you ever go like that? You ever find your hand flapping around?
Some people do. The only time I've ever had to do it is if we're recording a song, and because sometimes we'll get a demo and it's and I'm just going, I don't know how I'm gonna do that on the day. So sometimes I'll sing and I'll drop syllables knowing that that's what I'm going to have to do. Because otherwise you're just, if it's it's just like strobing on camera, right? But some people do. I know that like, I think Peter Linz might do that. I've seen a couple people in the booth like do it because it helps them. It might also be some of the speech pattern, right? The way they're used to having their hand move and stuff like that. But I don't usually do it.
In working with Carol Spinney and now Matt Vogel as Big Bird, whenever we talk about those types of characters, the full suit ones, the ones who have to roller skate while watching a tiny TV monitor on their chest, we are just astounded at the dexterity, the way that the multitasking that has to go on. Are there characters that you watch other people perform in person and just jaw on the floor like, I don't understand even how they're pulling this off?
That all the time with Big Bird. And I've been in Big Bird all of one time, and that was plenty. I was like, I never want this again. I respect it too much to do it, and it's heavy. Like that puppet's heavy. When Matt had the head reworked, maybe it was pre-COVID, but I remember going into the shop and I helped kind of get the grips just right and helped Matt where everything wanted to be inside the head. And that thing is heavy. It's really heavy. But also the isolation being in that suit. Because you're kind of with your people, but you're kind of not. You're kind of in your own world. I also don't like not knowing, okay, you can sit now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like not being able to see peripheral. So that's always amazing to me. Snuffy's the same. Barkley's the same. There's anybody who has that kind of dexterity. I have a very easy puppet in a sense. Like Elmo's heavier than he should be, but he's a rod puppet. So even when people have live hand puppets up all the time, both of their arms are up all the time. And it sucks. It's really painful. And, it's just harder. Your head's in every shot and you have to duck your elbow so that the live hand doesn't look like a big old arm. And it just makes it that much
Yeah.
harder. But yeah, Big Bird. I mean, watching Carol and Big Bird and Matt too is amazing. Watching Carol in his at the age he was doing that bird. I saw him do roller skates. I watched him do the roller skates. He did it effortlessly, and he was in his late 60s. I mean, it was incredible to see. But also, he had 80,000 hours inside this puppet,
Yeah.
right? So for him, it was just like walking down the street.
Yeah. It's so fun to watch him be like, well, I have done this. Now I must roller skate. Now I must jump off the back of this truck. Now I must
Yeah.
like just keep escalating. Like what are you
Well,
gonna do
yeah,
next?
and I feel like the underrated, even like more like slightly more advanced version of that sometimes is Bruno the Trash Man,
Yeah.
where he's performing two characters at once.
yeah.
Mhm.
While
And
in
roller
that
skating.
same while in this same, full covered, no peripheral scenario, and he's like, what if I just made Big Bird harder to perform?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough to have two puppets on, right? To
Yeah.
have a puppet on your right and your left and keep them both alive and not doing the same things. To have that kind of awareness of all the parts of your body and splitting characters into different parts of your body, that's a lot.
I got one more question before we dive into actually what we're here to talk about today with this celebration of 30 years special. But obviously there are times when Elmo's social media blows up. How aware of that do you have to be, and sort of prepared to react to things, whether it's Rocco, whether it's
Right.
mental health awareness, like those things just kind of like spin out to a degree to which I don't think anyone expects.
Right. I mean, I definitely have an awareness of it. It's not. I think a lot of people think it's me behind the Twitter, which it is not.
Right.
I will put that out there. It is so not me. But I think that it's an interesting time to be playing these characters because you do have to track a lot more. You have to track what did they say on Twitter, how did they react to this, what's going on in the in the zeitgeist. And so it is there. I don't think about it a lot. I think about it when I have to, and I just try and make each moment on these appearances and stuff as real as they can be within that context, right? But it is definitely like no one character is done by one person. It's a collective of people, right? And that was true even before social media. Like the writers and the directors of the show had a lot of say over who that character was in tandem with the performer. So it's not unlike that, but it is something I try to be more mindful of these days. Is what's on the Twitter now?
Yeah, someone gonna ask me about Rocco, and I need to be
Right.
ready.
Yes.
Rocco is in the zeitgeist.
That's right. And Rocco continues. I mean, Rocco is we're still talking about Rocco. So
Rocco is eternal.
Yeah,
Rocco is
Rocco's
eternal.
just part of the rich tapestry of our culture now.
That's right. That's right.
Once The Rock acknowledges Rocco,
Yeah,
that's
it's
forever.
Yeah, we entered another timeline when that happened. I feel like we entered another timeline branch and we're just in a new place now.
Yeah.
Once my mom knows about something a Muppet is doing, I know for sure it's gone into another level.
That's right. That's
I
absolutely
think it's really
right.
fun. I love how much people are willing to engage with Muppets on Twitter too, where it's not like "shut up, brand" like how it normally is, but it's just like, "Big Bird, why are you so small? We're all so worried about you.
Yeah.
Why did he get so small? I still
Right.
don't understand."
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing again. Like the people love these characters, so they want to have
Mhm.
those engagements, right? And it is a way for the characters to kind of live on in social media, which is always a hard balance to try and figure out how do we do it in a way that feels right, but also engages with the audience that we need. And I am nowhere near as smart to have the awareness of any of the social media posts or anything like that, but there is a team of people who do all that.
Well, we invited you here today to talk about a thing that doesn't involve Elmo at all. He's not even in the background.
He's not even in it.
He's
No.
one of the guys who couldn't make it that they call out at the beginning. Huh?
Yeah, all the Muppets except for the ones who couldn't make it. Apparently includes Elmo, who, again, to be fair, around this time was just starting to kick off on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
He's not quite the Elmo we all know and love today, or especially the Elmo of the '90s who was on the Rosie O'Donnell show every other day.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, Sam, how about you tell us what we watched this week?
We watched The Muppets, A Celebration of 30 Years, which aired January 21st, 1986. A vast array of Muppets, from the cast of Sam and Friends to the little Muppet monsters and almost everyone in between, get together in a lavish ballroom to celebrate 30 years of their existence, with Kermit as the guest of honor. The special is, I think, very accurately described as a glorified clip show, with various Muppets stepping to the lectern to introduce montages of various Muppety things. We learn the Muppets' humble origins on local TV and in television ads, see the Muppet Show, movies, newer projects, notable guest stars, musical acts, and other stuff all in montage form. There really isn't much of a storyline except for everyone's kind of lightly embarrassing Kermit by saying what a cool, great guy he is. Otherwise, it's just all clips, baby.
Basically, the whole thing summarizes what we've been talking about over the past
Yeah,
3
boring.
years.
We already seen all this.
It is wild to watch a clip show and have you have seen everything that's in there.
Like 100% of it, yeah.
Which is not an experience that is usually when you're watching these kinds of best of things that people have.
Yeah.
But, we've chosen to spend the last 3 years of our lives diving into all of this stuff, so we have a familiarity with it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting to see the Muppets talk about their history in a way that, we don't always take time to do on this podcast. We don't stop and look back all the time.
Right.
And if we were going to, they've done it for us. This is it. If you need a summary of what Commitment has talked about over the past 3 years, just watch this special.
It's interesting, too, because this would have been the first time that the company looked back, too. Because Jim Henson notoriously did not like looking back at his previous work. And so it's interesting because they're kind of in this sort of like this era is kind of the apex of what the company had achieved at the time. And so now they're looking back at everything. And I imagine that must have been an interesting experience for them. And I remember the new Richard Hunt book. I don't know if you've gotten an opportunity to read that.
I have my copy. I haven't got a chance to dive into it yet.
It's fantastic. Max Stein wrote it. Everybody should get it. It's a great book. And in that, they talk about, she talks about Richard's awareness at that point. He kind of felt maybe a little bit underappreciated in the Muppet Group until he saw this special and all the contributions he had actually made to this organization. And so I'm sure everybody was kind of having that moment too, which is interesting to think about.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time to do this kind of thing in the Muppet world because, at this point in 1986, they've put out all the movies they're going to do with Jim. They've done the TV shows aside from the Jim Henson Hour. And Jim is looking towards Labyrinth and things in the creature realm. And so, there was this sort of lull for a bit in the 85, early 86 era where we weren't seeing a lot of Kermit or Piggy doing things. And it sort of seemed like maybe they were going to try to move beyond these characters. But this feels like either, no, we're not moving beyond, or if we are going to move beyond them, we at least want to honor them before we go. There's a number of characters that we will never see again in this podcast, that this is the last time they show up in any Muppet production.
And I wonder too if Jim as a business person was thinking about syndication packages too, right? Because at this point they would have done the Dark Crystal, which weirdly is not in this. I'm just realizing they don't mention the Dark Crystal at all. It's like they sweep it under the rug. We're not going to talk about.
Yeah,
the
they're like,
Crystal.
we don't want to talk about the ugly people, the
creatures,
creatures, the
They
Skeksis.
didn't get to come,
But
they don't want Big Bird introducing Skeksis. That's just going to break everyone's brain.
I think that's a missed opportunity, quite frankly. I think they should have been sat together eating a big leg of something. But you do think about Jim was probably at this point thinking about how to diversify the company because this is speculation, but based on things I've read and heard, I imagine that Dark Crystal was a big financial thing for them that cost a lot of money to produce. And they've got Muppet Babies, which is kind of helping the company stay afloat. But it was a big organization at this point. So I imagine they're probably looking to have this awareness of the characters and keep it around for the next generation in syndication. Because that's kind of how I experienced the Muppet Show, was in syndication.
A lot of it did feel like an ad to me, especially the part, which obviously, like you just said, in large part it was, but especially the part where they talk about Muppet Babies and the little Muppet monsters. And they're like, you love these guys, right? Keep watching it and buying all the toys. But I definitely experienced this special very much as a big ad is what it felt like to me.
Which I think is again, we've noted this before, but by this time, Little Muppet Monsters had already been canceled.
Yeah, the two episodes had aired and it had never aired again.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so interesting as I think a format for this, because there are times where it feels genuinely like a very good satire of an awards show. Every
Mm.
commercial break is very well done in the way they are parodying the award show format, but throughout it doesn't feel like necessarily the segments themselves were as clearly defined, or it might be like, all right, we're going to do a tribute to the cultural things that we do here, and it starts off with a few clips of classical music and then all of a sudden just pivots into Darth Nader and Wizard of Oz, and you're like,
Those are
okay,
movies, Matt.
I guess the movies count as the cultural thing, but like I feel like they would introduce a concept, I would feel like I'm on board with like the theme of this montage, and then all of a sudden it would steer hard left, and I'm like, okay, that's just, you wanted to show the LaChoy Dragon. I like the LaChoy Dragon, so I am fine with
That
that.
was a weird one. They could have shown a few more Sam and Friends clips, probably, instead of just being like, meh, this guy was around roughly the same time.
And you know what's interesting? I have thoughts on both. I was thinking both of those
Yeah.
things when I watched it. The Sam and Friends stuff's interesting because was it Craig Shemin maybe who told? I can't remember who told me this. Probably Craig. But that was the first time they had accessed that stuff. They didn't even know what they had.
Oh, wow.
And this would have
interesting.
been the first time that the Sam and Friends stuff had been pulled out of whatever, the kinescopes. So they probably
Right,
didn't
yeah.
know what they had. And it may have been, well, we've got these two reels, whatever, that says Sam and Friends on them.
Yeah.
So, because there is very little stuff. But also, I
Yeah.
thought the same thing in that same montage about the chickens playing piano. And then it goes into all these movie parodies. And you think, okay, well, this is a collection of movie parodies. And then it randomly just has a couple of the Muppet Show news flash pieces in the middle of it for
Yeah.
no reason. And
the
it felt,
first one mentions an orchestra, and you're like,
Yeah,
okay, so
piano
it's the
falls on his
classy
head.
ones.
yeah,
Right.
it felt
But
to
the
me
other ones
like
don't.
maybe the edit was running a little short and they needed to like slide in 36 seconds of a news flash or something because it felt really arbitrary. But it's nice. I can't remember the first. I probably saw this on Nickelodeon in the 90s because I know it ran on Nickelodeon. And as a kid, having only seen like a quarter of what's in it, it was amazing.
Right.
Because you'd get a
Yeah.
flash of something, of some old black and white, somebody blowing somebody else up, and what is that? And in your mind, it's like this huge giant production that you've never seen, and in reality, it's probably a 10-second commercial.
You saw all of it. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
right. But I agree with the clip package thing. I love it. It's wonderful. But I think I had remembered more of a narrative
Mm-hmm.
than there actually is. And it's a shame that this wasn't like a 2-hour Friday night spectacular where they could have taken the time to build a narrative inside of this ballroom.
Yeah.
Because you see
Reenacted
Grover
some.
reenact some stuff, or like,
Yeah.
what's Piggy gonna do? Or I remember when I was watching it, I thought Grover as a waiter was more of a runner than it is, but they only show him twice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But it feels like that those kind of opportunities really feel like he goes from table to table, he gets all the orders wrong with all the Muppet Show characters, and all the
Yeah,
Muppet
get
Show
mad
food
at
is over at the
Grover, yeah.
he's got the Muppet Show vegetables being served to the Emmett Otter people or whatever. Like, it could have been, if they had more time, you
that's
could have really
good.
played with it.
And that's something that they do in a Muppet Family Christmas. And that's what
Yes.
I was expecting this to be more of a Muppet Family Christmas experience.
And I wonder if that was exactly it, right? I wonder, because this I think was
Mhm.
80, maybe they shot this in 85. I'm
Mhm.
sure they said, okay, we did this before. Here's what we learned from it. We need more
Yeah.
Muppets talking to each other. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
people
yeah.
get excited about. Oscar talking to Piggy or whoever.
I also feel like this could have potentially benefited from having some celebrities in the room.
Yeah.
Almost even, doing the Muppet Show trope of the celebrity is like, wait, what did you trick me into doing? What am I here
Mhm.
for? Why am I here? Liza Minnelli is seated at the table with the monsters or something like that. Or, Paul Williams is hanging out with Emmett Otter and that crew.
Oh, that would be so cute.
That'd be great.
And I understand that there's probably some, of like, okay, do we want Emmett Otter to interact with a human? Is that a little too fourth wall breaking? But I think like that would have helped that award show sort of vibe carry throughout too, if you just had a random famous celebrity show up.
Right.
I think you're right. And in one sense, it would have been great. In another sense, this special's already a little dated, but it would really date it now. I mean, if you watched it, what's funny? I was thinking about this earlier. It's almost 40 years. If you play this podcast episode in 2 years, it will be the 40th anniversary of the 30th anniversary special.
which is wild.
That's
which is
crazy.
wild. That is, I mean, this is almost 40 years old, this thing, which is really crazy to me.
And 30 years is already a pretty dang long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're coming up on the 70th anniversary of the Muppets next year.
That's wild.
What we need is another one of these to celebrate the 70th anniversary.
Right.
We'll do it.
Yeah. You know, I feel like it's going to be a little harder to get all these characters in one room than it used to be.
Their like eyes will fall out. Their like jaws.
Oh, I meant
will
more of a
fall.
legal rights issue rather than the puppets
That's
surviving.
true, too.
But that is also a good point that a lot of these puppets would be in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, there's probably, it's so funny because I thought about that too. There's probably half of these puppets are now preserved because they can't be used anymore in the Center for Puppetry Arts or whatever. But it was so fun to see things in each shot, and I could go, "Oh, I've puppeteered that thing. Oh, I've had that thing on. Oh, that's cool. I've worn that one." And so it's funny
Any that jump to mind specifically?
I'm trying to remember. Certainly, a lot of the Sesame Street stuff. Like I've pretty much had all the Sesame Street puppets on, but so a couple of Muppet Show people I can't remember. There was something that I saw in this, maybe a Frackle or something. I can't recall what it was that I had done in those live shows. So it was just kind of cool to see.
Right.
And these puppets do last. I mean, by and large, a lot of the puppets can be refurbed and taken care of. Some of the Sesame Street puppets we use are still from like the first couple of years. I had Little Bird on the other day. Little Bird was built in 1970, you know? So it's kind of amazing. And like, it's so interesting too to see. It's almost like an archaeological dig to see, oh, the body's made out of this, and oh, that's interesting that they made this choice. A lot of it's still there other than the foam. But I was thinking about that too for all the puppeteers, because sadly there aren't any additional puppeteer credits in this, because I was curious to see who worked on it.
There's so many puppets on screen at a time that they had to have had a lot of people there on set.
And it doesn't look like they're doing the Fraggle Rock thing where there's a lot of dead ones or ones being like controlled by a servo or something.
Yeah, no, it looks like they're pretty full up. But I'm sure it was one of those things where they also got crew people and stuff in, because you look at some of them and they're just not when they introduce Big Bird. Sam the Eagle is a couple rows beneath Big Bird, and he is so happy that Big Bird has just been introduced. He is shaking up and down. I was like, that is clearly someone who's never seen this character ever.
He's a bird. They're both birds. He's
sure.
an American bird.
I do
celebrity.
like every time they cut to like the weird like medium shot introductions for things, they have themed that specific shot really well.
Yes.
Like, okay, all the birds in this shot, all of the bears or whatever in this shot, all the weirdos and monsters in this shot.
I love the monster table where they were like, "We used to be in everything. Why are we in it? Why can't things explode and die anymore?"
Yeah, the self-awareness of this special is fantastic, especially that moment where Sweetums is like, "The Muppets used to use explosions and everything. What happened to that?"
And especially when you think that most people watching this special maybe have no idea what he's even talking about.
Right. It's so funny, the themed tables. I remember, I think it was maybe Marty Robinson and Pam Arciero, because they flew out some New York performers to work on this. I think it was shot in Toronto.
I think so, yeah.
But they flew out some New York like ringer people. And I think Pam and Marty are in the pig table, because I remember them calling it pig purgatory, because they were just stuck there for hours and hours and hours. Okay, wave, now applaud, now cheer. But it is amazing. And the self-awareness too kind of goes back to that thing we were talking about with the talk shows, right? That the Muppets have an awareness that they're in the industry, but they're almost like visitors in that industry. They kind of know about it, but they wouldn't know what a grip is. But they do know that, like, I'm supposed to stand here and say my thing, you know?
Or like just Kermit and Piggy know all the terms and they have to kind of tell everybody else what to do.
Yeah, Fozzie doesn't. I mean, he's not going to know.
He thinks maybe he thinks he knows. Rolf knows too. Rolf's been around the block.
Rolf knows more than anybody in that room. Yeah. Rolf
he just don't open his mouth, because then he's got to do stuff if he says something.
That's right. And he knows it's wasted effort at this point. He's in a point in his life where he's done that already. He's good.
Yeah. I mean, as he calls out in this, because Kermit says, "Did you know that Rolf was the first Muppet to have a regular spot on network television?" And he leans over and says, "I used to be a big star back then."
Poor guy.
And it's so sad.
Yeah.
And he says it to Ernie, which is so, I mean, like, it's really sweet and like heartbreaking at the same time that he's telling his younger peer, who he's seeing himself in this kid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the not the downfall of Rolf is too strong of a term, but like
He did it to
Rolf is
himself. I think he did it to himself because I love Rolf's one of my favorite characters. I adore Rolf.
same.
And I dismissed him a little bit when I was a kid, and as I became an adult, I was like, actually, you're the best Muppet because he's so cool and he's so chill, but he's also like this lovable, adorable dog. That the dichotomy of those things, but he also is not going to push like Piggy's going to push. He's like, let her have her thing. It's fine. I'll be here when you need me. I'll play the piano. I've done this. I've had this, I've lived a life that's full. And I love that about him. And he's also just, he's just he's a satisfying design. He's a satisfying, the vocal quality of Rolf is really satisfying.
Yeah, Don Celine came out the gate just nailing it.
Amazing.
Like, you want me to make a good dog? I got you.
And it's kind of like nothing that had existed up until that point. Like no dog in culture had ever looked like this big black round nose and these disc eyes, and it's just such a abstract look, but somehow it perfectly reads dog.
Yeah, he had invented like a new kind of cartooning or something.
Yes, yes. I always cite because I'm a big lover of like mid-century animation, and there was a production company called UPA that did these really abstract character designs that I imagine Jim would have had to have seen, or it was just in the zeitgeist because a lot of his stuff of that era looks really abstract and kind of mid-century looking, and that you can see Rolf in there for sure.
Speaking of the tables, one of the tables is Sam, New Zealand, Chef, Bo, Bunsen, and Beaker. That would be the table that I know I would get stuck at, and I know it would be the worst table in the whole entire place. Awful table.
A mess. Why would Sam put him? Why would he not move from that table? I mean, that seems bizarre to me that Sam would be willing to sit at that table with those people.
They're some of the biggest weirdos of all.
I also feel like if anyone was going to be in charge of making the seating chart, it would have been Sam.
Yeah.
So like he would have sat himself there. So maybe there was some, maybe he forgot to add himself to the seating chart and got stuck with them because it does not seem like a choice he would make.
He thought he'd get to sit at the head table, and then he walked up there and was like,
or he's secretly the craziest one of all.
Not enough seats. Yeah. He's the biggest pervert of all.
I mean, he's had a hard life. We've learned a lot about him. He's had quite the hard life.
Yeah. We should give him some grace. We should.
Yeah. But speaking of Sams, we got another Sam here at a different table. We have Sam, old Woodhead Sam, from Sam and Friends, along with his friend Harry the Hipster, who I knew were in this, but I did not expect Harry to speak in this.
Had a camera shot out himself.
I thought his speaking time was done.
Yeah. Well, he's just Rolf, so not too hard.
It's really jarring to see those characters with the characters of the time because it's such a different look. I love them, but it's it's totally a different universe. It looks weirder than if like the Gelflings would be there. It's really strange because Sam, especially, like Harry kind of looks like a standard Muppet, but Sam looks almost more like I don't know if you're familiar with Bill Baird, but he was a puppeteer who was huge before. He was like Jim Henson, and then Jim Henson came along, and Jim Henson was Jim Henson.
Right.
But his puppets had that kind of a look, that, like you're saying, that hard kind of like plastic wood head thing going on. And I remember the first time I saw this, I was shocked at how small they were. Because there's a book called Jim Henson The Works that I had when I was a kid. And in one of the pages, there's a giant, horrifying picture of Sam. He looks so scary, and he like fills up the whole page. And I remember thinking he's this big, clunky, like Charlie McCarthy looking guy. And you see him at this table, and they just like, they're these tiny little guys. I mean, they're no bigger than their hands.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting to see.
Yeah, I think especially Harry the Hipster, to me, like, has never looked more like a sock puppet than in that moment. Because you see him around all of these other puppets that have foam and like skeletons or whatever, building them out to be a shape. And he really is just the shape of Jim's hand and arm.
Yep.
Right.
And he's like, Kermit, why do you look so good now? Implying that Kermit hasn't spoken to him in like 25 years.
Yeah, man, I haven't seen you in 25 years. You look great. What happened?
And what were they up to? That's what I want to know. What has Harry the Hipster been doing for 30 years?
He's just got his own public access show in DC still. He's just ranting and raving.
feel like he'd work at like a natural health food store or something. He'd
Or
like
he's doing the
be
Muppet
running.
tour in DC. Like he rented a bus and he's like, that's where we shot it. Right over there. Kermit the Frog. I knew him.
Yeah, like the real Kramer guy. He
Yes,
was just, like, the
exactly. Like the
thorn.
real Kramer guy.
He is the
Totally.
thorn in Kermit's side. He's
Yep.
always in lawsuits with Harry.
What do you mean I'm not a Muppet? Look at me. I am a Muppet. I was one of the original Muppets.
But Kermit, you know, he feels bad for him too. Kermit's
Yeah.
a good guy. You know, what's Harry gonna do to Kermit? You know what I mean? Let him do
Yeah.
it. Let him have the bus. It's fine.
Kermit bought him the bus.
Kermit bought him the bus. Yeah.
I love that when they introduce the different tables and like the different things too, they have like an orchestral version of the theme song, the little Sam and Friends theme song. It was just so like respectful in a way that was like no one who's watching this special except like 24 people who lived in Washington, D.C. know what you're talking about, but you still took the time. And then at the end of the special, Jim is sitting at a table with the Sam and Friends guys, which was like when he gets the big check. It's like, oh, he remembers. Not just us remember.
I thought about the musical cue thing too, and then I looked at the credits, and it is very much like a family reunion in the crew too. I mean, this really was all of Jim's people got together. Peter Harris directed it, who did The Muppet Show. Jerry Jewell wrote it. And then Ray Charles, who did the other Ray Charles, who did the other Ray Charles, The Muppet Show, did this. So I'm sure that was a lot of it, right? Because it's kind of because he's got his team. It's not some new people. It's everybody's putting their little love letters in, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, speaking of that, that like sort of sincerity and the sweet moments, there was a few times where it's sort of they lean into that sincerity in ways where it really fits, and other times where it threw me off a little bit. Specifically, Uncle Traveling Matt and Sprocket introduced Ben Vereen singing "Pure Imagination," which is a
I
very
did not
sweet.
like that.
It's a very sweet cover, but then during that cover, we get things like the Smurfs and Vendaface, and it added a weird gravitas to Vendaface.
It was so weird because of all the characters. I felt like Fraggle Rock was a little underserved, and it's to your point, Matthew. I think you said that, like in universe, how can these characters interact with the other characters and stuff? So I get that they didn't want the Fraggles to interact, but it is the total wrong place for Traveling Matt to be in the special, because he asks, do you know what it takes to be a Muppet? Now, how does he know what a Muppet is? How would he know what it takes?
That guy doesn't know what anything is.
That's right. So you could argue that he's being pompous and pretending he knows what a Muppet is, but it's a stretch. It's another opportunity that is unfortunately a little missed. I think that we could have seen a hole, like a Fraggle hole in this beautiful ballroom, right? And he pops out of the hole and he's starting to do investigative reporting and research on all these strange characters.
If he had been, wandering around being like losing his mind, being like, what the hell? I stipulated last episode that the Fraggles, like you said, have no idea what a Muppet is and do not know that they are indeed Muppets.
No, they wouldn't.
So he could be learning now, I'm a Muppet.
What? Well, by your theory, Sam, the only reason that Fraggles die is because they don't know they're Muppets, and if they knew they were Muppets, they know that they could live forever and cannot be harmed.
That's right. That's the forbidden knowledge that they do not possess.
Wow.
But now Uncle Traveling Matt has been cursed.
Yep, and he's got to go.
Eternal life.
That's why he goes back to Fraggle Rock so soon, because he's like, there's no point in any of it.
The existential dread of realizing you are a Muppet.
You said something about the sweeter moments, and there was one that I noted that I loved, and it goes back to that discussion of using the puppetry, the physicality of the puppetry to tell an audience, a certain narrative point. And what I love is there's a tiny little moment that doesn't mean much to anybody except probably us, but Fozzie introduces Kermit, and Kermit comes up. And Fozzie does the sweetest thing where behind Kermit, he's cueing the audience to applaud more by giving them like a more thing, which is adorable because it shows the character relationship and that he doesn't need to take the spotlight. He loves Kermit so much that he wants that for him. But then 10 seconds later, he like manhandles him and swoops him around. He switches him around to the screen, and just seeing all that physicality is nice, and their relationship with the performers, you can really see it.
It reminds me a bit of when, Frank and Jim got to play with the like TV commercial, like watch the Muppet Show tonight. And it's very
Yes.
much clearly like an improv thing. Jim didn't know what Frank was going to do as Fozzie. He just kind of went for it. But because they're so good at staying in character in those moments, it feels real to the characters. I also love how many times throughout this they cue up like, and next, a special tribute to Kermit. And next, we honor Kermit the Frog. And next, we talk about the beginnings with Kermit and the Muppets. And I'm like, I think that's the whole point we're here. That's the reason
Yeah.
we're here, folks.
And it also feels thinly veiled, like we're saying Kermit, but we mean Jim. You know, it feels a
Yeah.
little bit like a tribute to Jim Henson next, but he can't say that because they did this for the 20th or 21st. I can't remember what it was, but Kermit went on the Dinah Shore show and they did a whole birthday special with all the Muppet
Right.
characters.
Oh, yeah.
And it was maybe his 20th or his 21st. And it felt like they were using Kermit as a device to celebrate Jim Henson's anniversary, right?
Yeah.
The walls start to crumble a little bit when Kermit and Piggy start talking about this. When she wishes Kermit a 30th birthday, and he's like, "You mean it's our 30th birthday?" And she's like, "I'm not 30." Which, to be fair,
She's
she's
not.
10 at this point. So
She's only 10. She's only been around 10 years.
yeah,
She
That's
made a big
wild.
impression in 10 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that says a lot. I mean, no
Yeah.
character in modern culture, well, in Muppet culture anyway,
yeah.
has gotten that big in 10 years. It's amazing. And I love, that's one of the things I wanted to bring up, is her introduction is a great example of how to use Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Because I also, as much as I love Rolf, I also love Miss Piggy. And there are a lot of opportunities to get her wrong. And I feel like this gets her right. You know, this
Mhm.
huge lead up in this clip package, and they introduce her, and the orchestra plays and the stairs illuminate, and she starts to be pulled out on stage and her back's to camera, and it's perfectly built. She turns to camera and she giggles, and then she immediately falls down the stairs head
She falls
first.
so hard.
Head
Yeah.
first. And it's you could argue that it wasn't super earned, like she didn't say anything snarky to anybody to earn that fall, but it just works. It's one of the things that I, when newer people writing for Muppets tend to want to make her a really mean character without
Mhm.
recognizing the layers, and that she's got to fall down the stairs, right? In order to love her, she has to fall down the stairs, and
Yeah.
she picks herself up and she acts like nothing happened, just as we rehearsed, all that stuff. I think that they captured that really well here, I thought.
Yeah.
There's another weird moment in this that, like, it's one of those things we do when you have a podcast about Muppets. You think too hard about small moments that
Mm.
aren't that, they don't, they're not that serious. But there's a moment where we get Bert and Ernie, where Bert's trying to read a very serious statement talking about the anniversary and everything like that. And they call out that when Ernie pulls off Bert's nose, he's like, "You've been doing this for 17 years. And Ernie says, don't thank me. That's my job." And it made me go, oh, is Ernie saying that his job is Sesame Street?
I
Oh.
thought that was weird too. I picked up on that as well, because again, canonically, we have this thing with the characters where that is a real working living street, but
Right.
that's paired with them being in show business, right? And so there is this weird, I thought the same thing. The other thing that I loved about that is it's such a tiny little performer thing. When Ernie puts his nose back on, Jim goes, he does this little thing with his voice
Right.
that supposedly he did all the
I didn't
time.
notice
That's something that I've heard performers say to me, like, Jim was always making sounds with his voice. And all puppeteers kind of do. Like,
Right.
you kind of inadvertently go when you're bringing a puppet in, and you just don't even think about it, because I guess we're seeing it the way it'll be edited. But
Right.
but I just love those little, like, it's just adorable to me that he still loves it so much that he's going.
Well, and Frank's just, obviously they've been doing this for a while, like they mentioned, but the strong character choice of when his nose gets pulled off, how much more nasally
Yes.
gets, and just the sound of his voice changing is such a strong, good choice as a character.
There have been a few times where if Oscar, if Elmo's interacting with Oscar and we have to do this, I will actually hold my nose underneath the puppet just to
Oh.
get that sound, and those fun little things that, like, puppeteers love to find those little things, right?
Right, because it's one thing to like have to do the voice already is a skill, but then have to be like, and now that voice is going to do, it's going to say a word that like we're not used to saying, or it's going to be in a situation where it's underwater or
Yes.
wearing a helmet or doing a thing. And it's like, okay, how does Elmo sound when he's underwater? Oh no.
Totally. That does come up. Link's wearing an earring in this, which I find really strange.
I didn't notice that.
Link
He's
is
keeping up
fully
with the times, I guess.
I guess so. He's fully wearing a gold hoop earring in his right ear.
He is the Harrison Ford of the Muppets.
Big time.
As he ages, he is the action star, but he's got that cool little gold hoop earring to stay hip with the kids.
Maybe he's hired a stylist or something who was like, you got to wear hoops. Hoops are in this year. They were at the Oscars. You got to wear hoops.
Yeah, Link, your star is fading a little bit. People are starting to forget about you post Muppet Show, so we got to bring you back. What about an earring?
Yeah. He's doing like a George Michael thing, right?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, he's got like this satin blue. He's wearing like a satin blue something or other, with like a ruffled dicky and a gold hoop. It's a very specific look.
It's a good look.
That is something that's interesting. Is you have the characters that are clearly dressed up for like a night out awards thing, and then you have like the Emmett Otter table where everyone is dressed as these poor woodland
doing
creatures.
The best they can. What a
$50 they can't afford. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way that Ma is scrounging away money for Emmett to wear a little dicky. and a cummerbund. There's no.
They're taking the silverware with them when they leave.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. They all have little plastic bags with them to fill up with silverware and plates.
Yeah.
Emmett, put that in your bag.
Emmett, get the soup spoons.
Wendell's got the tablecloth. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
Their big break was just playing at a bar and grill like down the street from their house. So
yeah, right.
You know, they're doing okay, but they're not doing
This is
great.
the big time.
Yeah.
It does feel a little weird to hear the words coming out of Big Bird's mouth of Muppet Babies, Little Muppet Monsters, and Fraggle Rock.
That part embarrassed me because Little Muppet Monsters had flopped already. So and I wasn't expecting them to spend so much time on it.
Right.
And I had meant to look at it under the guy, like thinking like, could they have cut Little Muppet Monsters somehow? I don't think they probably could have.
Well, and I think they did, because the one that I had a copy of this, and so I just put that on. And they totally cut out Little Muppet Monsters. It is not.
Okay.
Interesting.
They kind of re-edit Big Bird sequence to just say whatever the first two shows are, and then it cuts right before he's going to say Little Muppet Monsters.
Wow.
Okay.
But
yeah, I know that they definitely cut out, because there's also moments during like Rainbow Connection where we see Tug, Molly, Boo. Got it. Nailed it.
Right.
Where we see them singing Rainbow Connection as well.
Yeah.
And so they were definitely on the like Little Muppet Monsters. That's the next big thing. We're gonna make sure everyone sees these characters.
I'd be curious to see when they taped this, because it must have been 80. I'm guessing it was 85. And I don't know when they did Little Muppet Monsters, but I wonder if they were like taking a break from Little Muppet Monsters to go shoot this celebration thing.
I think that is exactly. I think we looked into this before when we were watching Little Muppet Monsters, that they filmed this after maybe the first couple episodes had aired.
Right.
But like it was right in that time where the show was on, so they felt like they had to acknowledge it, but they didn't yet know it was not going to stay on. And so I'm sure there was decisions and conversations around like, do we leave that in there? How do we cut that out?
What does the network have to say? Because if it's the same, I'm assuming they were on the same network. Maybe they weren't, but if they were both on CBS or whatever, there may have been some like, hey, by the way, you got the show on our network. You got to put that in there.
They should have waited for the Big Bird bump to see if there's a Big Bird bump before they pulled Little Muppet Monsters. But I think Jim was the one who was like, this show stinks. We got to get it off the air.
Yeah, as someone who has now watched that show, you know, I don't know that needed more than it got.
Something. It was close. They were close.
You know what I love about that is the set is gorgeous. It's a beautiful set, and it really does feel like you're in that theater. The art direction in it is really nice. And it's like anything, like all shows take the time they take, right? Muppet Show. If you watch the first few Muppet shows, it is like, what is going on here? You know? And so, and especially with the Muppets, it just feels like characters take a while. And I'm sure with some time and massaging and more, like having more of the classic Muppet characters in it, you know, would have maybe helped introduce this group of new characters. One of the things that when Big Bird introduces the kids shows, another tiny little thing that I couldn't not see. Two things. Bobby Benson is directly behind Big Bird, looking as
Oh, no.
creepy as he's ever
Yeah.
looked. It is like a bad place for him to be. I don't like him there. He shouldn't be there. He should be somewhere
He's
else.
like, hey, Bird, you want to join a band?
Yeah, it felt a little.
He's got to keep a certain distance away from Sesame Street.
Yeah,
That
right.
is-
Come on, man. This is a kid
Yeah,
show.
he's
Like,
usually smoking a cigarette, so we can't have that near Big Bird.
That's right. And then the other thing is, I think it's this moment where I'm sure you've heard this story. This is the story everybody tells about the 30th anniversary. Is that there was a big group scene and there was one little rabbit that was doing way too much.
Mhm.
And the director called out to the floor and said, "Hey, who's doing that rabbit? Can you just bring it down a little? It's way too much." And a head pops up underneath the rabbit and it's Jim.
Oh no.
And Jim was deliberately messing around and being big just to have fun because he was bored and he didn't have a main character on, so he just had a rabbit and he was having fun. And if you look over Big Bird's shoulder, there is a rabbit who looks very
Yeah.
much like Jim is performing him. He's not doing a lot. He's not doing a whole heck of a lot. But I saw it and I thought, I wonder if that's the moment.
Oh yeah, I did notice that guy and was like, "Is that Bean Bunny?" No, not.
Yeah,
Bean
right.
Bunny.
He's kind of.
He has a very
the origins.
noticeable bunny.
He's
Yeah.
very present for a background character.
He knows where the camera is. He knows how to get into frame.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to be a star.
Distracting way, yeah.
Jim didn't want to put any of his people on. He was just bored, which I think is adorable too. That he just, I'm going to put a rabbit on.
Well, I do want to highlight that there are a number of characters we mentioned earlier that, according to their Muppet Wiki filmographies, this is their last time on screen in new material, meaning that here on Commitment, this is the last time we'll see these puppets outside of other clip shows.
Wow.
And, I will trust Muppet Wiki on some of these, and, much like the Oscars, I am sure I am forgetting someone.
It's our in
but
memoriam segment.
This is the Muppets
boy.
in memoriam. We've got David Laser Muppet and Leo from the Muppet Meeting films, Emmett and Alice Otter, Harrison Fox, Gretchen Fox, and Wendell Porcupine, Flute Snatcher, everyone's favorite Muppet, Miss Finch from Follow That Bird,
Oh.
Mutt, the annoying dog from the Country Music with the Muppets VHS tape,
Right.
Zeke, the banjo player for Lubbock Lou and his Jug Huggers.
But the rest of them still are around?
Some of them will show up on, Jim Henson Hour or Muppets Tonight as background characters.
Okay.
Lydia, the tattooed pig.
Oh, I love
She's-
Lydia.
Such a good puppet.
No,
I still
she's
think-
creepy.
Oh, really? Okay, let's do it. Let's go.
I-
Sam,
She's
because
creepy
yeah.
because her hands are hooves instead of hands.
I will
Mm.
fully give you that. It is weird that she's got hooves. But Lydia, every time I see that puppet, I think there's another, because there's always this thing of there aren't enough female Muppets, and there aren't, but there are so many female Muppet puppets that could be
Yeah.
made characters. And that puppet with that crazy hair and the glasses, maybe put some more clothes on, possibly.
She's nude, yeah.
She is naked a lot of the time.
It's going to be
But
a
it's
little awkward if she shows up in the 2015 Muppet series still wearing a bikini. People are going to be like, that's not workplace appropriate.
But it's a lovely looking character because I think she's in the Muppet Show opening too. I mean, I've seen a lot. I feel like I've seen a lot of Lydia, but nobody
Yeah.
really knows who she is.
But we also lose Sundance the Lion,
Oh,
TR the
yeah.
Rooster,
wow.
Another good one.
Miss Mousy, Sam, Harry, and Yorick from Sam and Friends. And last but not least, our beloved Hilda, the seamstress and wardrobe mistress from The Muppet Show.
That's
Hilda.
another one. Hilda got a bum rap.
I
That's
agree
a good
with you.
character to have on the Muppet Show. A seamstress is way better than a lady who runs the diner.
I
Huh?
completely agree. I think Hilda was not given enough time. And
No.
she maybe needs a face. That's the other thing I would say. She doesn't really have a face. She's just got big glasses and I don't know what's going on in that face to hers, but it's not a face. Just work that face, work the head a little bit more, and you've got some. In rewatching the Muppet Show, I don't think that people give like Erin Osker too. She's a great performer. She's really funny. Her voices are really good.
Mhm.
And Hilda's another example of someone you could bring back tomorrow.
Well, and you get us diehard Muppet fans, yelling about Hilda on social media to be like, they did it! They brought back Hilda!
Yep.
I think I'm shocked by this special that there wasn't more involvement from some characters that like Animal, for instance,
Oh yeah.
or
The
even
Mayhem are all
Bunsen and
pretty
Beaker.
relegated to just like the bandbox.
Yeah,
But-
and yeah, Bunsen and Beaker aren't in it at all. I
Mhm.
noticed that too. I thought that was weird. And
Gonzo doesn't have a lot to do.
and Gonzo doesn't have a lot to do. And I wondered because in watching this, none of Dave Goelz's characters are on the dais, and or they are, but they don't speak. And I thought, oh,
Right.
maybe Dave couldn't be there the whole time, because every time you see one of Dave's characters, they're in the like
Right.
the dinner party area. They're not in
Hmm.
the dais. You see Gonzo for a flash.
Interesting.
You see Traveling Matt for a flash, but they never go up. It's like this is just fully a theory that is not proven,
Right.
but it looks like they shot all the guests at a certain time, then they shot the dais.
Oh,
Right.
Because
I think that makes
Gonzo
sense.
is a glaring omission in this thing. You see him for a short little piece. He introduces like,
Right.
here's all the weird stuff we did.
Yeah, and he even says, "I came down from the main table to be
Right.
down here," which is a weird thing to hang a hat on when
Yes.
Camilla could have just been sitting next to him at the table.
Yeah, she should have been up there too.
Yeah, I wonder if, maybe Dave was doing Fraggle Rock at
Maybe
the time.
so.
And maybe, I don't know if we, trying to think back, like, I wonder if Jerry has any characters on the dais that are talking during
Robin.
scenes.
He and Kermit and Robin have
Robin,
talk
who's
that's
not
true.
wearing
on-
pants. That was disturbing to me. He's wearing a tux with no pants.
Oh wow!
And
If you're gonna put
point.
some clothes on him, you got to go all the way.
Even
And
when
you know
he's
what
a
I-
Frog Scout, I think he wears little shorts.
Yeah, you
so-
got to put, if you're going to, here's my thing. If you're going to wear a jacket, you got to wear pants. I mean, maybe it works the other way around. I'm not really sure, but I just felt really, and it seemed
I
like
mean, I don't want to see Kermit in just pants.
Oh, I'm sure that
it
The
definitely.
Calvin Klein ads.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
go back to 1995, and I guarantee you there's a
Right.
poster with Kermit with no shirt on.
Oh,
with
I know it
pants.
exists. I'm just saying I find it personally unpleasant.
And as
Does
do
Kermit
I.
wear just
as
a
do I.
shirt ever? He wore that
Ugh.
sweater for a long time, and he just wore the sweater with no pants, I think.
Right. Which
But
feels
that
less
was-
weird to me than a t-shirt for some reason.
Yeah, t-shirt feels nasty. Yeah,
Yeah.
The
But
sweater
it just
is-
woke up. Like, I
But the
don't like
Robin with no pants felt like a choice in the moment, where the
Yeah.
shop only built him a jacket
Uh-huh.
because he was only going to be seen from the waist up. And it seems like somebody, Jerry, was like, oh, it'd be nice if Robin was sat next to Kermit. And his
Right.
legs are just fully out,
Uh-oh.
no pants, no shoes, no nothing.
Yeah, wearing a very formal top and no pants feels like you're making a statement. More
It
than
feels like a
anything.
move.
You're like,
yeah.
you're daring people to be like, "Sir, you
Yeah.
can't be
Say I'm
here."
underdressed. Come on.
Yeah.
He does have a weird body shape compared to a lot of other puppets, though.
Yeah, he's like a
he
little
does have,
jelly
like,
bean.
yeah, like he doesn't have much of a body there, but
No.
you could have thrown some pants on him.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other Jerry. Well, Floyd's in it for a little bit.
Yeah,
But Jerry
that's
always
true.
kind of
That's
gets a little underserved in these big things. And I always feel
Mhm.
sad about that. That
Mhm.
Jerry.
And the count gets to do too.
You're right. You're right.
Jerry's
The count's
there.
there
Yeah.
too.
Jerry's
So Jerry's there.
He's there more than Dave. He's there
he has-
more than he's there
Richard.
more than Rizzo guy. What's
Yeah,
his
Steve
name?
Whitmire.
Mhm.
Steve. Yeah, he's there more than Richard. Except Richard gets Sweetums and
That's true.
a good part with Scooter too.
Scooter, yeah.
Huh.
But the Count has a weird moment where after the explosion and eating montage, Crazy Harry comes in and just blows everything up. And it goes completely unaddressed by the Count just starting to talk and introduce Sesame
Well,
Street
he appears
clips.
in one of Harry's explosions. Actually, is what.
But
yeah.
it's like weirdly, like it almost feels like this one of those things that would happen live where he starts talking while the
Yeah.
explosion noises are still happening.
Oh,
And so it's almost like
yes.
it got like his line got stepped on.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, you had full control over when to start talking. This is not a live performance.
Isn't Crazy Harry one of his characters too?
yeah.
He's all
Yeah.
over
Yes.
this dang thing. He might
Yeah,
have the
wow.
Forget
most
what I
voices and
said.
characters of anybody, actually.
Strike it from the
It's the
record.
Jerry Show.
Yeah.
Yeah. A celebration of Jerry.
Well, I think actually that's maybe a nice way to wrap this up is maybe, do you have any specific memories or moments of working with people like Jerry on set that stand out to you?
Well, I knew Jerry a little, but we didn't work together much. We worked together a handful of times, and I was just a kid, so I was just astounded. I kind of kept my distance because I felt like, to me, I didn't really care. At that point in my life, I didn't care about like rock stars or sports, athletes. I cared about these people. And so that to me
Mhm.
was an unbelievable thing. Anytime you could be in the room with Jerry or Dave or Frank or Fran Brill. You know, I worked a lot with Fran Brill, and
Yeah.
every time I was like, oh my God, I'm working with Fran Brill. How has this happened? But Jerry was such a cool guy. He was just one of those people who was always the smartest one in the room, and like he could well educated on everything. His life was so rich. But I remember him being very like kind with me and patient with me. I was actually assigned to do his hand as the count on like my second day. And it ended up being Jerry, the last time Jerry puppeteered the count. He would do the voice, but it would be the last time he puppeteered the count. And I ended up not doing it. Someone else ended up doing his hand. And I was actually a little bit relieved for that, because I just thought, oh my God, if I mess up on my second day with Jerry Nelson, I will never forgive myself. But it was amazing. You know, I was kind of, and Carol Spinney too. Like I worked a whole lot with Carol Spinney, and
Right.
I had the opportunity to be with these people who that was the reason I was in the room, was because of these people, and to get to tell those people that, and to work with them, and to hear, and for them to be kind and generous with their thoughts about my work was just, I mean, that's what this has all been about for me. You know, it was amazing.
So before we get out of here, I got to ask both of you, what non-Muppet things did you get to enjoy this week?
I've only just it doesn't really count because I just started reading it. But there's a book
that's
called,
fine. If you like it, at least, I guess.
Okay, I'm starting to like it. It's taking a while, but there's a book called Improv Nation, which is just a history of American improv comedy, and like the history of Second City and UCB, and so that's been interesting. And then lately, my partner and I have been playing a game. We're not huge game people, but we got the Switch, and that became kind of that was a game changer for us. And we're playing Pokemon Snap, which is
fun.
The new one or the old one?
I guess it's the new one. This is my first experience with it, and it's so much fun. We have so much fun doing it, because what's fascinating to me about it is that seemingly they took like a hunting platform game and adapted it to be the sweetest, kindest version of, we're not killing anybody, we're taking pictures of them.
You can't shoot Pokemon.
Yeah, you can't. And I also love that it's a photography game, that it's like a really like, you know, I'm a director as well, and so I love that part of it, that it is you're composing shots, and also like there's just some cute, squeaky, fluffy Pokemon jumping up and down, and that's great. But I do love the photography element of it, so we've been having fun with that too.
And then you get feedback from the characters who are like, oh, you got to center him in frame a little bit better.
I know, it's not always helpful. It's like, dude, I know I need to center it in frame. Okay, it was moving so fast. I tried.
The freaking coughing was right in the way of him, though. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I used to play the Nintendo 64 version.
Oh, right. I didn't realize there were other versions of it.
And hours.
Yeah, no, I beat that one 2 or 3 times all the way through. Just sat down, like in one sitting. I would sit down and just beat Pokemon Snap on N64.
Yeah, and it was very much like, it felt like it was like the same platform as the Star Fox game. I don't know if you played that, Matt, the 64 Star Fox.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was like definitely an on-rails shooter that they turned into a camera thing. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
You obviously you do a lot of improv stuff when you do these live things, but is that something that you do outside of Puppet?
Yeah, I've always kind of done it, and we do it a lot in the Dillon work, and then that kind of informs a lot of the scripted material. But yeah, I love improv. It's my favorite. I mean, I don't love the improv game format, where it's very much like, we got to get this word in there, you know, that kind of thing. Is less fun for me, but I just love exploring, because I'm big on characters. You know, I used to love puppets, and that was my driving force, but the older I get, the more it's just about the characters, and then puppetry is the devil I know, right? So that's how I access the character work, and so I love it for that. You know, I love improvising to find little things in character.
Well, there has to be. I'm sure there's a certain thrill, excitement, fun when you have rules in your head when you're performing a character like Elmo. Of like, okay, we're improvising right now, but I have to stay in this box. I am this old. I can say these things. I know these words. Like, I'm sure that's exciting, and sometimes maybe a little. Is it scary? You ever get nervous doing that?
No, but I often find myself doing things that are probably more indulgent than the character would allow for, because it is limiting. It's very limiting to play a 3.5-year-old on like a late night talk show or something, because that is an odd scenario. So you do have to like bend the rules a little bit. I always feel like the ages from a curricular perspective, it's really important to have an age to write to for the show.
Yeah.
But I always feel like, we don't know how old Bert and Ernie are, and we don't really care. We don't really know how old Grover is, and we don't really care. So I don't anyway. So I think it's they're like, for me, all the characters are childlike, but not
Mhm.
children. Right? They have an innocence and a childish wonder
Yeah.
about them, but they're not like babies. Because when you make
They're
them
like-
babies, it makes it really hard to make them funny.
They're like really smart cats or dogs or something.
That's-
just like,
yeah,
even
right.
if they're old,
Right.
even if they're old, they're still like little baby.
Yeah,
and you
they're
love a little
wise,
baby,
but they're
and
also
they don't know
really
what they're
stupid.
They're
Well,
stupid.
yeah.
And I think you like I you know through the years I feel like I've seen a number of clips of specifically you performing Elmo on like Jimmy Fallon,
Right.
and I feel like there's moments that almost harken back to the Rolf Jimmy Dean days where
Mm.
you can catch him off guard with something
Uh-huh.
in a way where he's like, wait, did Elmo just say balsamic vinegar?
Yes.
Like, like
we just
when
had
you-
it the other day. There was a moment where I played Password.
You were playing Password.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah.
And I'd been dying to play Password because we were supposed to do it before COVID. And I was just
Mm.
so
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I love game shows and I'm like a total freak for that stuff. So I couldn't wait to play. And what's really hard in that game, I was playing for keeps. Like I was like, I am playing this game. I am gonna win
Right.
this game. And so crazy things come out. Like Elmo guesses satchel. And that was not Elmo guessing satchel. Okay. That was Ryan
Right.
Dillon guessing satchel. But you do get this. There is a forgiveness because it's already really complicated and complex to mentally wrap yourself around playing a character in that context who's meant to be younger, but then to be playing a game with an adult in that context feels like, because we also had to do this thing where like Elmo can't read, so
Right.
Higgins had to whisper the clues. But I also love the dichotomy of a character who can't read but happens to know what satchel is. You know what I mean? There's this kind of
and the
duality.
You also have the moment where Higgins is whispering to Elmo,
Yes.
not to you.
And I should
So-
say, by the way, we were playing that game for real. I
Yeah.
was looking up to see if I could get the whispering. I couldn't see what he was whispering. And sometimes I could see the card he was holding, and sometimes I couldn't
Mhm.
see the card he was holding.
Oh.
So it was it was really like we were playing the game.
That's
But I love
That's
those
so
moments. I think there's some forgiveness in those moments too, or like
Yeah.
like just like you said with Jim and Frank when they would do these shows, they kind of steer because you're also playing for a different audience. So you're playing for the adults. You're
right.
not doing it for the kids. So those
Right.
things are always fun.
Muppets on talk show is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I
It
agree.
should happen all the time.
It should.
Well, Sam, what did you watch this week that was non-Muppet?
I'm like at an all-time low for my media consumption, I feel like. Because what I watched Throw Mama from the Train. That's like all I watched in the last week.
What a bizarre choice.
Yeah, I don't know. Rachel just put it on. And then halfway through, like when the murder happens, without spoiling too much, like the first one, I was like, I've seen this whole entire movie and I've seen it within like the last year. And then because I knew what the resolution of the movie was. So I had watched it at some point. I don't know when. And I think
You
I'd
just-
fallen asleep halfway through and then woke up.
You just
for the
forgot you watched it?
Yeah, but it was fine. It's like Danny DeVito's so good in it. A lot of the middle drags.
And
But-
Anne Ramsey. I mean,
Yeah.
Owen, what are you doing? That lady's amazing.
Yeah. And she got nominated for an Academy Award for that movie, which is
Fantastic.
so wild that I feel like that kind of movie would not get nominated for an Academy Award anymore. But
Unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, is right. But that was pretty much all I watched. But that was I think it was because this is why it was because Danny DeVito was on the Oscars. Did you see? Did you
Right.
watch the Oscars?
Yeah.
He and Arnold Schwarzenegger came out as the twins, and they were so funny, just like these
Ah.
old wrinkled up raisin men, and they were being so like doddering, and Danny DeVito was being so cranky, and I think everybody was just like, yes, Danny DeVito rules, especially Rachel. She was like she wants to watch I think all of the stuff he directed. She's
Yeah.
doing her own little mini blank check episode or like part of her life where she's watching all the Danny DeVito directed stuff. But I mean, it's well directed. It's a good fun movie. There's just some of it that's like, you could have cut this part out, maybe make it a little shorter.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. How about you?
I've been watching a lot of Game Changer on Dropout. Been
Hmm.
watching a ton of that. But we also watched Killers of the Flower Moon over
Oh,
the last 2 nights. We did not watch it all in one night because
It's a big boy.
it's a big boy. Yeah, I hadn't. This is my first time seeing it. I understand why Lily Gladstone was nominated for an Oscar, and I understand why Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't.
Yeah.
And I liked that movie a lot. I will say I didn't love it.
I liked it better than I liked Poor Things.
We almost watched that last night, and I saw the trailer, and we were like, "Oh, is this a tonight thing? Are we gonna watch this?" But that is on the list of things to see. Is Poor Things. I've not yet seen it.
I loved Poor Things. It was
good.
everything that I wanted in a movie. I liked Killers of the Flower Moon better, just because I think it was like, this is a stupid thing to say, but it's a more important movie. But Poor Things is just like deeply stupid and deeply adorable and deeply fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll make it to that one eventually. But Killers of the Flower Moon was one that I felt like I was like, I should have seen this in theaters. It's time to sit down and watch it now. And yeah, it is 3.5 hours long though. So, it's rough as somebody who, isn't quite a young man anymore to have to stay up super late to watch a 3.5 hour long movie is something that in my 20s, I definitely would have done. But now it's like, well, where's the best intermission point in this movie?
Now you're such a loser. You wake up at like 6:30 in the morning to watch movies.
That's true. You're calling me out here, Sam.
I mean, you're saying I think that's amazing. Loser.
I'm jealous. That's why he's a loser. Because
I wake up at 6:15 every morning, and some mornings I will put on a movie that like I know my wife won't care about, and I'll watch a movie before she gets up.
I wish I could do that.
That's
I'm
amazing.
So sleepy, though.
Before we go, we got to let you know what we'll be watching next time. Next time, even though we just dove into 1986, we wanted to keep this anniversary celebration going a little bit longer. So next time, we'll be answering a bunch of your questions that you've sent us in via email or social media or a bunch of places. But we're also going to be taking a trip back in time to 1969 to watch something that is 0% Muppets, but 100% Weird Jim Henson, because we are going to watch and discuss the 1969 film The Cube. But Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can the people find you online? Where do you want them to find you online?
That's the better question, I think. Ask. Well, thank you for having me. So we, so Dillon Gale is out there. We are on Instagram as Dillon Gale Official. You can check us out. It's myself, Mark Gale, former Muppet performer, and Frankie Cordero as well, who works at Sesame Street. Don Quixote. They're some of the funniest people I know on this planet, and so I love working with them and playing with them. And so you can find us there at Dillon Gale Official on Instagram. We're also on YouTube and TikTok. If you just search Dillon Gale, you'll find us. They're all slightly different usernames, but you'll find us if you search Dillon Gale, Dillongale. And I have a private account, but I don't really use it anymore. So if I don't accept your friend request, please don't take it personally, because it's not personal. I promise.
All right. Well, we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget, you can go to commitment.com to check out everything you might want to learn about commitment. You can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any questions. You can follow this podcast everywhere on social media at CommitmentPod. And you can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.